This is the pregame show here on OSN. The Ottawa Senators back home and in a playoff spot, taking on the visiting Pittsburgh Penguins, who are a single point ahead of Ottawa. Lee Versage and Tanner Ryle with you once again. How are you, Tanner?
Oh, a little under the weather, Lee, but pulling through. My voice is kind of losing it a little bit. But I think I'm going to make it through here.
Sounds sexy, right? That's what you got. You got a little bass. You got a little bass to it.
Feels anything but I think I can pull through. So it's just the voice. I feel great otherwise, and I'm ready for another night of Sens hockey against the Penguins.
And how about this night? Yes, the Boston Bruins won last night in overtime against the Buffalo Sabres. And right now, the Boston Bruins in the first wild card spot have more points than second and third in the Metro. And then Ottawa, the New York Islanders with 85 points, Detroit with 84. There's a bevy of games tonight. So let's look at this one, Ottawa and Pittsburgh. And I think the first thing to do is, again, Tanner, maybe even run down some of the who's in and who's not here for the Ottawa Senators, because and Pittsburgh too. It's a fairly big list.
Well, it's a little bit easier for the Penguins. So we thought Anthony Mantha was not going to play. He's been day to day. Confirmed this afternoon that he is in, but they are still without Evgeny Malkin, who is a big piece of that team, I think, as we all know. Lineups tonight for the Senators is unchanged from their game in Detroit. So we're going to see the same forward core, the same defense. Linus Ullmark gets the starting goal. A little confusing at morning skate today when he took a maintenance day. I think that caused a little bit of panic in the fandom, but no, he's going to skate. So they're running the same defensive pairs that they ran with Clevin and Zub as your top pair, Spence and Matt and Paolo on the second unit, and then Jorian Donovan and Carter Yakimchuk. I'm sure, as we did the other night, we're going to see this team mixed up a whole lot, and maybe Donovan and Yakimchuk are able to get in a little bit more just because they're at home and they have last change. Carter Yakimchuk also taking reps on the first power play unit today at practice, so that's something to watch as well. But I think we'll see a little bit more of Jorian Donovan. Sure, it's a huge night for him. I don't know if you saw his media availability. He was like, it feels like Christmas morning. It's like growing up around here as a Sens fan, watching his dad play. Right. He was also talking about Erik Karlsson being his favorite player growing up. Yeah. It's got to be a surreal feeling. Much more of a media guy than Yakimchuk. I'll say that for sure. But yeah, you referenced the injuries there. Travis Green, in his availability, kind of went down the entire D-core pretty much. So there's good news and there's bad news. I don't know where we should start. I think on the good side.
Always start in the good side.
The good side is Jake Sanderson skated today and will be traveling with the team to Florida. So if he doesn't get in Saturday against the Tampa Bay Lightning, maybe we're looking at Tuesday versus the Panthers. So Sanderson is close.
Yeah, it feels a little bit rushed for me, but we'll see. They did say last week that, once you start skating, maybe 7 to 10 days, that's Travis Green's words. And that 7 to 10 days leads into that Florida game on Tuesday. So, if that is the timeline here for Jake Sanderson, that would be, very, very welcome to the defense core that is going to have both Carter Yakimchuk and Jorian Donovan on it tonight. Like you said, just because the pairs are listed that way, I don't think we're going to see it that way. But because of last change in some of the matchups, I would bet we would see more of Jorian Donovan here tonight. And, I think a lot of people, Tanner, made a little bit of the fact that Carter Yakimchuk had first power play. I think if you look back on the game and see Jordan Spence's ice time and how much he was played, there were a couple of power plays that Carter Yakimchuk started that Jordan Spence was just on the ice for, right? So I think that with him playing the amount that he is, and with what Yakimchuk did in the previous game, I think there's a little bit of comfort there, but we'll see how it goes. And Jorian Donovan, you mentioned that his favorite player is Erik Karlsson growing up. And I think like it's crazy, right? Like he's in his early 20s. And I mean, if you go back, it was almost 10 years ago, which is wild. That like it's 9 years ago that the Ottawa Senators were within one goal of the Stanley Cup. And Chris Kunitz scoring in double overtime for the Pittsburgh Penguins to beat the Sens and move on to the Stanley Cup final. That's crazy that it's 9 years ago. But you think about Jorian Donovan growing up in that time. Well, of course, Erik Karlsson would have been a guy. Quick Erik Karlsson note for everybody. With his next assist, which could come tonight, obviously.
Yep.
Erik Karlsson will surpass Daniel Alfredsson for the 5th most all-time by a Swedish-born player.
Wow. It's probably got a bit of work to do in points, no?
Yeah, that's just assists.
Okay.
But still, with those two being so close, it's always an interesting matchup with Daniel Alfredsson behind the bench for Ottawa and knowing Erik Karlsson and Erik Karlsson knowing Daniel Alfredsson. I wouldn't say knowing the Ottawa Senators anymore. I mean, you go back to when he played and there's just nothing left from the time that he was there. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, the joke I always like to throw out when they play the Pens is that the last 4 Sens captains are all going to be in the building tonight. Because you're going to have Alfredsson, Spets as their assistant GM.
Yeah.
Karlsson and Kachuk.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
That is kind of funny.
But I think we cut the injury list short there a little bit.
Yes. Thomas
Also,
Chabot.
I guess somewhat on the good side, Lassie Thompson is skating today. Green wouldn't say day-to-day, but he's not expected to miss a lot of time. I'm not sure how much Lassie Thompson really moves the needle, but I think they'll take any organizational depth that they can right now, just with how many guys are up.
Health.
Exactly. And then kind of on the flip side, I mean, towards the middle, Dennis Gilbert's out probably another 2 to 3 weeks. Again, probably doesn't move the needle very much. Would maybe let you send like a Jorian Donovan back to Belleville. Then we get to kind of the ugly side of things. Thomas Chabot undergoing surgery today for a broken forearm at the hands of JT Miller. So that's not good. And when Green was asked for a timeline, he kind of said, oh, I don't know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So I know the 4 to 8 weeks is kind of going around right now. I think it sounds like it's probably going to be the longer of that time frame.
Yeah, I mean, where are we now? March 26th today. The NHL playoffs start in 4 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, for me, Thomas Chabot, if this team were to make the playoffs and get through the first round, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. And even then, still a maybe. And then Nick Jensen, he said longer term. So I think Nick Jensen's played his last game as a Senator.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So kind of brings the question up now of has Carter Yakimchuk played his last game in Belleville?
I mean, that's a good question. I think he probably supersedes Lassie Thompson in the fact that what he can do offensively and even spotting him in to give the team a little bit of a jolt. I mean, it feels like they've been leading every game they've played in the last little while. Their record is just, it's mind-boggling because they don't give up any goals. 15-3-2 in their last 20 games, and since January 25th have the second most points of anybody in the league. From that point, they've given up a 2.15 goals against average in that time, by far the best, and they're 8th in scoring. So that's pretty good combination over the last 2 months and 20 games. 8th in scoring and by far the least goals against. And then you look at, the Penguins tonight, Linus Ullmark, 8-0 in his career against the Pittsburgh Penguins with a 2.28 goals against and a 926 save percentage. The last time he faced them in December, he got a shutout, 4-0. They've dominated Pittsburgh. Not only Linus Ullmark, but Ottawa. I mean, 8-0-2 in their last 10 against the Pens.
It just feels like ever since the 2017 series, they've kind of had that team's number a little bit more.
And Pittsburgh always had their number. Always.
Oh, for sure.
Leading, through the 2010s. So can they do it tonight? I would no longer call it the most important game of the year. It's a very important game for the Ottawa Senators, but every game is going to be a very important game, I think, as we lead to the end. But just to give a little bit of context for the Pittsburgh Penguins, they are third in the Metro with 86 points. But Columbus, 87. The New York Islanders, 85. And so those are the teams around them. I don't think they have to concern themselves with the Philadelphia Flyers, but you never know. They are at 80, but they've played the least amount of games. They still have 12 games left. Everybody else really has 11 or 10 left.
Yeah, and Philly plays tonight. Kind of feels like if they don't win, that's probably curtains for them, I would say.
Well, it's a hell of a scoreboard tonight because the Columbus Blue Jackets are in Montreal to take on the Canadiens. Just a massive game there. You got the Islanders at home to a very good Dallas Stars team that lost to New Jersey in their last game. Philly's at home to Chicago. And as far as the Eastern Conference, things are going to shake up again because even though you look at Montreal, they have 88 points, but doesn't feel like they have the same amount as the Boston Bruins do. And so for Ottawa, they're trying to catch both of those teams. I think Ottawa would prefer a Columbus victory, so they would move up in the Metro. But they got to take care of business against Pittsburgh here. And to me, Tanner, this game feels like, I know it's not a 3-game road trip because they were at home on Saturday, but man, oh man, it feels like this team with those 5 games in 7 days, it feels like a massive road trip that they've been on. And then they finally come home for this 1-game spurt here before they're right back on the road in Tampa on Saturday afternoon, an early 1:00 start. Keep saying it, but every time they come home, it's like, well, except for the Leafs. Every time they come home, it's like, this is a tough game. Like they came home from the Western trip and they had Montreal and it was always going to be a tough game. And this one feels like another tough game because how much could they possibly have in the tank? That's what I ask myself, especially with, I know Jordan Donovan talking about being on Christmas morning and some of the energy, but I believe him, but there had to have been some energy, nervous energy going into his first ever NHL game. And same with Carter Yakimchuk. And maybe when you kind of breathe a little bit, there's a tendency to let down a little bit of energy sometimes, but I don't know. This one feels like it's going to be a very difficult game from my perspective. And to see what they have, it just feels like they always feel like they have to win a hockey game.
Yeah, and it sort of does feel like they're due for one as well. I know I took them to drop the Red Wings game. I'm glad I was wrong in my prediction for that one, but it does feel a little bit like they are due for a loss.
Yeah, their only losses in the last, basically the last, 3 weeks have been the Montreal Canadiens game and the Washington Capitals game, and they completely outplayed Washington and a couple of empty net goals, but I'm
looking at this entire month. The only losses I can remember are Montreal, Washington, and Edmonton.
Yeah.
Like they beat Calgary, they beat Seattle, Vancouver. Yeah. I think they've only lost those 3 games.
Well, that wouldn't even be this month. I know there's the Olympic break, but again, since January 25th, they're 15-3-2. Like,
yeah,
There's only 3 regulation losses and 2 in overtime in that. Like that's as you're playing 20 games and you're getting 32 out of a possible 40 points.
It's exactly the run that we were saying they would have had to have gone on before the Olympic break when the team looked well and out of it. We kept saying, they're not going to get back in without a miraculous run. And they've gone on that run, and now they control their own destiny.
32 out of a possible 40 points with, some of the things that have happened to them, especially lately. The fact that in the last few games that Dennis Gilbert and Lassie Thompson and Carter Yakimchuk and Jorian Donovan have all suited up on defense for this team. James Reimer has been their goalie for a couple of games. Like, this has not been very easy at all. And I'm so impressed with the way that they beat Detroit. That can they sustain that against another team that really needs a victory here today? I mean, Pittsburgh finally just trying to clear themselves and give themselves some breathing room. And with a win tonight, I said that the Islanders were playing, right? They're playing Dallas at home. Like,
that'll be a tough one.
Yeah, especially Dallas didn't look good early. They got 4 goals against the Devils in the first period and lost that game 5-4. So they're going to be ornery. That's a tough game for the Islanders. And so, I mean, Pittsburgh, I think, are looking at tonight, like, maybe, just maybe, we can separate ourselves from like 3 points into a playoff spot and separate themselves from the New York Islanders for fear of not being caught, because they're not really worried about the Boston Bruins and the Ottawa Senators as much as they are the New York Islanders catching them for that 3rd spot in the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah, absolutely.
Up front, for Ottawa, we saw, I say up front, but Carter Yakimchuk a goal and an assist. What did you like about the game against Detroit, like offensively, to get them out to a 3-0 lead?
Yeah, I mean, I think their depth has been really big lately, especially when you look at guys like Warren Foegele and Lars Eller. I think they have the last 3 or 4 games worth of game-winning goals. I think that is really a strength for them right now because, frankly, Warren Foegele, he's not a top 6 guy, but he's certainly not a 4th liner. And it's a luxury to have him in that spot right now. So they're getting lots of depth contributions. Like guys like Amadio have looked great. And then Stützle's just still playing at that other level. It's coming from all up and down the lineup. And I think it's helping them with their offense for sure.
That's one of the guys, Lars Eller. I think he's been really good. Like, when I watched Lars Eller play, I didn't really notice him at the beginning of the year. I just thought he was out there taking up some time and some shifts, but it wasn't. He seems to be doing a lot more. He's more noticeable, and as you said, it's coming from a lot of different areas right now for the Ottawa Senators, and I think that they feel committed to, if they play defensively and play this structure and play the right way, that somebody's going to score. And they don't need 4 goals and 5 goals a night to win hockey games. They really don't.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing I did want to touch on away from the hockey game tonight was the Algonquin, Anishinaabe Nation, and Senator Sports and Entertainment came up with a long-term economic partnership together based on the shared vision for LeBreton Flats, consistent with the LeBreton Flats master concept plan. So that's got to be another step forward, Tanner. It's not a I was going to say a groundbreaking announcement.
No, for sure.
We'd like to break the ground to build the new rink, but this is important to be able to. I think it's a fairly big step forward when it comes to everybody aligning to be able to get this done. So it's not like, oh my God, great news, but it's okay. Like things are still moving. Things are still going in the right direction to get LeBreton Flats done, which, we've just talked about forever, but today was another step in that.
Yeah, and it feels like it's been a little bit since we've gotten an update, certainly into 2025. So it's nice to have something. And I think at every point that Michael Landauer and Cyril Leader have spoken about this, they said they want to get Indigenous leaders involved in developing the arena. So yeah, I think it's a great another step. Certainly not the big one that I think a lot of people are hoping for, but hopefully this is the last real hurdle we have before they can finalize things with the NCC and properly purchase the land, because I think they're still working that deal out. So maybe this was one of the final steps of getting this group on board, and now it's on the NCC.
When everyone else is aligned, you would hope that the NCC can also get on board.
Yeah, and I think that this would be important to the NCC as well to have this type of group involved.
Richard is in. Can't wait for the new rink in LeBreton. I hope it's done before I retire. We've all been saying that. Nice to have you aboard, Richard. Richard gave us a very good suggestion on This Is Wrestling and a show to check out called The Ropes, which we're going to check out and maybe review. I let Richard know about OSN, and here is Richard listening. So we appreciate it.
Actually, I listened to This Is Wrestling on my drive home, so I did catch that story.
It was a long episode again, so you probably didn't get all of the episode, that's for sure. Every time I think it's going to be a short show, I forget that, oh, right, I'm talking. Zach's talking. But we did cover some good topics. Richard says, watch out, Tanner. Coming for your job. Well, Richard, you're gonna have to do a lot to come for Tanner's job. Well, maybe the way he's talking tonight, but
my voice is so bad right now. But we're pushing through.
I was a little bit surprised to see Jacob Bernard Docker signing a 2-year extension. With Detroit. I didn't think he was doing all that much with the Red Wings, to be honest.
I guess not. Maybe it's just, when you look at some of the guys that have gone through there, like Justin Hall and Travis Hamonic, I know they like their Senators sloppy seconds too, when you look at some of the guys that are on that roster. But I think he's a perfectly fine, third pair defenseman. So I think getting him for 2 years at 1.6 doesn't move the needle, but they've got enough guys kind of coming through their system. That'll be their top 4 with Evanson and Sandine Pellikka. Now they've got Justin Falk in there as well. I am a little surprised that they're just kind of running it back with the same defensive core when it looks like they might miss the playoffs. I do really wonder if Steve Yzerman is at all going to be on the hot seat in the summer if that is the case. But obviously the season's far from over right now, and I don't think they're out of it by any sense.
I do think you hear some flack for Steve Yzerman and Detroit because of what has happened. They always get off to a good start. They always struggle towards the end. And if they miss the playoffs again, you're going to hear it. I think I forwarded you some of the mentions from the loss against Ottawa. It was not pretty, but I think big picture, he's not going anywhere. So the fans might not be thrilled with what's going on right now, but I don't think, I don't think he's going anywhere. I wanted to hit on a little bit, out in Edmonton, the pillow fight and the Pacific Division and how that's all going to shake out. The Oilers got a big win the other night against Utah, but goals 400 and 401 in the career of Connor McDavid. And I kind of thought he had more, but then when I went and looked at, the all-time goal leaders, it's like, man, he is so young compared to where other guys are. Like, he's almost in the top 100 all time in the history of the league in goals.
Yeah, and he hasn't even turned 30.
Which is crazy, right? Like, and you look at some of the guys that he's going to catch with his next few goals, like Paul Correa, He's not far from guys like John LeClaire and Marion Gaborik. Phil Kessel's name not far ahead. Like it is wild that he is so young. Nathan McKinnon's Nathan McKinnon's got 12 more goals than him, but he's 2 years older than Connor McDavid is. But these guys are just rifling through the history books. Like if I look at some of the guys that I thought were like really, really good goal scorers, Tony Amonte was a guy that all he did was score goals. Steve Thomas, when he played for the Leafs, all he did was score goals in Chicago, and he was around forever. And like Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon are just gonna whip by these guys like they were standing still. Leon Draisaitl is the same age as McKinnon, 2 years older than McDavid. He's got 434 already, but you just think about Draisaitl and McDavid. They have 835 goals between them. Like I think that is nuts for two guys on the same team. Like absolutely crazy. But Connor McDavid gets to 400 and 401 the other night. All right, let's get back into this game and what we expect to see here tonight. I think Pittsburgh, for me, Tanner, I expect them to really, like, I know they don't have last change, but they're a much deeper group up front. They score goals more than most do in the league. And over the last, month or two, they've been playing some good hockey as of well. They're a plus 18. They score goals, and they're going to really look towards those defensemen for Ottawa tonight, and try and put them in some bad positions. The teams that they have played lately, even though they've been on the road, just haven't had a chance to do that. Like the Rangers had nothing, even when Shabbat left, like absolutely nothing.
Right.
And Detroit, they kind of looked out of sorts for most of the night. Maybe not in the third period, but they kind of looked out of sorts before that. I don't expect Pittsburgh to look like that this evening.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a much deeper team than I think they get credit for. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for the way that they've turned around this season. I don't think anybody thought they'd be here. I think the only thing people thought Penguins would be competing for is the rights to draft Gavin McKenna. So the fact that they're in a playoff spot this late in the year, and they've picked up some nice pieces along the way as well. You see how Stuart Skinner's worked out for them. Igor Chinikov, a sneaky nice pickup from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Mm-hmm. I was really high on Ben Kindle going into the draft last year. I was actually hoping he'd be around when the Sens ended up taking Hensler, but he was off the board well before then, and I think you can see why. Because other than Matthew Schaefer, he's probably the best from that draft class right now, who's played the full year. So, yeah, I expect probably a higher scoring game, and it's good. Ottawa is going to need some help, I think, from those defensive forwards. I think Shane Pinto is going to be seeing a lot of Sidney Crosby tonight.
Maybe a little intel from Drake Batherson as the two, fairly tight skate together. I saw that they were hanging out for a bit this morning with each other. Another thing that should be mentioned too is that Stuart Skinner's always played really well against Ottawa. Yes, he had great teams in front of him in Edmonton for the most part, but 6-1 all time in 7 games against the Ottawa Senators with a .903 save percentage and a 2.71 goals against. So you got Linus Ullmark, who's never lost to the Penguins, and Stuart Skinner's won 6 times in 7 games against Ottawa.
I think I was actually at his one loss against Ottawa.
Okay. You always talk about being there for the negative stuff.
Positive stuff. That's just this year. 2 years ago, on the day of, I got a sweet deal to go see Edmonton, Ottawa, and I was like, okay, I'll go see Connor and Leon, just light up the Sens in person. That'll be fun at least. Because this was the Korpisalo year.
Okay.
And
Ottawa
took it. And it was fun. Leon and Connor were still awesome to see in person too. I mean, his speed is one thing on TV, but to see the way that Connor McDavid just flies on the ice in real life is something else.
Yeah, I mean it's wild. I was looking over the Pittsburgh game notes, and it's amazing. Ottawa's had some real good success against Pittsburgh as of late. 8-0-2 in their last 10 against the Penguins. And you read the Penguins notes, and they're like, Pittsburgh enters the game with 16 points in its last 23 games versus Ottawa, dating back to 2017. If you go back further, they have points in 28 of their last 37 against Ottawa. Like, they got to go way back like 10, 11, 12 years, and they're putting out these positive stats. And I know that's what game notes mean, but or for teams, right? You want to accentuate the positive. Again, around the league, the Columbus Blue Jackets in Montreal, massive game, for the standings in that one. And then eyes will be in Long Island for the Islanders and the Dallas Stars, as well as Pittsburgh and Ottawa. What do you expect? I think the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight are just going to be a little bit too much. And that I liken this game a lot to the game against Montreal at home. Like, yes, they weren't gone as long, but they were also, the 5 times in 7 days. They got a break yesterday, but I mean, 6 games in 9 days is nuts. And to do it with these type of defensemen, what the game will mean to Pittsburgh, I just think it might be a little bit too much for Ottawa tonight, but they're going to have to, I mean, they're probably not going to win every single game, and they've been so good. But I'm expecting a high scoring game tonight. I feel like it's going to be, so I'm going to go 5-3 Penguins tonight. And I'm sure Sens fans hoping I'm wrong, but I do think the Pittsburgh Penguins have a little bit of an advantage going into this one.
I would agree, just when you look at how much of an offensive team they are, and the defense in Ottawa, like we already mentioned, coming back from a pretty long trip and just a lot of things working against them on the back end. This team's got to lose eventually, so I would agree. I think I'm going to take the Penguins tonight as well. I also think it'll be high scoring. I'm probably thinking 5-4. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes to extra time, maybe overtime or a shootout, but I do think the Penguins are going to be the team that takes the 2 points tonight.
So for Sens fans, I hope Tanner and I are both wrong.
Me too.
Going into this game, and we'll have, we'll be right on after the game with This Is Overtime. We'll be watching that Columbus Montreal game. That's also a 7:00 start. So is the Dallas New York Islanders game. So everything is going to end around the same time. Concerning the Ottawa Senators, I am knocking on wood, no more injuries for this team. I think they've had, they're going through a tough stretch. They went through a long stretch where they didn't have anybody injured, like a long time. You never even thought about somebody getting injured. And now, they just can't really stay away from it. So we'll see what happens tonight, but we will be back for This Is Overtime right after the game. So for Tanner Ryle, Lever Sage, thanks for being with us on the pregame show on OSN.